it's not to be understated. We're undergoing such a transition in the world. Many have compared the coming events to like the parting of the Red Sea. Well, this is far beyond that. The scope is much bigger. It covers the entire planet. And this isn't just freedom of Egypt. This is freedom of the world. And so exciting that we can get together and we can have these Zoom meetings and we can talk about things that are going on. So much has happened over the summer since we last did a call. There's no way I can touch on everything because it's coming in fast and furious right now. Hopefully you all are watching for the information as best you can as we're nearing a point of the collapse of the deep state. So we're going to see several things transpire. I've made a list of things here. I'm going to kind of go down and cover several of these topics. I've got a full sheet here and I was just beginning. So I thought, you know what, I better keep this to one sheet. Otherwise we're going to be here all night. Many of you have known that there's a new movie out called The Sound of Freedom that's exposing child sex trafficking across the globe. It's doing very well here in America. On Tuesday, it hit 100 million in sales, which is unbelievable for an independent film like this. But it's very well done. I actually went and saw it last week with my wife. And I honestly think everyone should see the film. Now, if you haven't seen it yet, the content is heavy, but they don't really show anything that's graphic that you got to worry about if you have young people with you. But this is not an accident that it's coming out right now, because this is all going to dovetail in with everything else you've been seeing. There's been banking records literally released by the House of Representatives, predominantly the Republicans, about the Bidens, and that they have literally linked the money through various bank accounts into dozens and dozens of shell corporations from entities around the world. So this is exposing their pay-to-play scheme that they've had going on for some time. And the child sex trafficking is an important topic because we're going to find that many of these same individuals, whether it be Biden's, Obama's, Clinton's, and many others, are also tied in with the child sex trafficking, unfortunately. And so this is coming to the consciousness of people so that we can be prepared for those revelations as they unfold. One of the things that's interesting here in July, and this started right about the beginning of the month, we're now to the 20th, so 3 weeks in, the military's been on mass movement throughout the United States. There have been heavily movements in 27 states. There's more coming. We've even seen it here locally. They were literally driving a tank down the main drag here in town. It was unbelievable. So a lot of choppers going overhead, military aircraft. Everybody's like, what's going on? Well, we're actually in the midst of the roundup, and they're kind of doing this strategically because they can't, this isn't something you can do in one day. It's just too big for that. So they're doing it in pieces. And what we're beginning to hear reports of is that internet outages are happening in some areas for an hour, for 2 hours, or 3 hours, then it comes back on. Well, these dark periods are so that they can do their stuff that they need to do in terms of taking these people into custody, and can stop their communications with any of the outside people. So you're going to continue to hear of this. You'll probably begin to hear of testing of the emergency broadcast system in various areas. There was actually some testing going on in Florida today of the EBS. This is all preparation for the EBS that goes nationwide when we get to that point. So that was kind of exciting that we're seeing so much happen here in July. There seems to be some indications that we could possibly hit the point of the wealth transfer beginning this month. I realize there's only 11 days left. That's not a lot of time, but at the movement that this is moving in terms of activity and what's being exposed, things could move very rapidly. What I do expect in terms of some of the historical assets and revaluation of currencies is that some of that will take place during the quiet time. In other words, when the EBS happens, there's going to be stay in your homes. There's going to be 10 days of communication blackout, or at least that's what we're hearing. And there could be during that time, even appointments being made and transactions being done very quietly in the background. This will be all with heavy NDAs. No one's supposed to talk about their transactions, talk about where they get their money or anything like this. It's going to take some time to work through that. I think between now and let's say into September, or maybe late September, so the next 2 months plus, we could be seeing those things take place in the background. I think by the time we get into late September, it's going to be publicly in the face of everyone. Hey, there's a financial change occurring here. I hate putting dates to anything, and I want to just put a window out there. It is a 2023 thing, and this is all subject to change at any given day. So, if it doesn't happen tomorrow, well, don't freak out. It is unfolding, and it will happen. Some of the things that we've been seeing over the last week here is train derailments continuing. We've had 3 additional quite nasty ones, spilling chemicals and stuff. The deep state has been using trains to move, shall we say, cargo that they shouldn't be moving. And so there's some of these are having to be initiated, unfortunately, to stop the movements of this stuff. And others is the deep state trying to cause a catastrophe, such as chemicals in the water, in the ground, something of this nature, that they can distract the public with of some new catastrophe while they carry on what they're doing. So don't get too, pardon the pun, derailed by this, because this is all noise. And another thing that's interesting as a bit of noise is there's been a lot of talk about the white powder in the White House. Okay. We don't want to get too distracted by this. Oh, they did an investigation. They don't know who did it, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'll just put it this way. When you have a Sleepy Joe in the White House, sometimes you need to keep him awake. So enough said there. And we'll probably never know. But don't stress about it. That's really not an important story. It's just an interesting, part of the unfolding here. Something happened today that was, or was it last night? But I think it was earlier today. A tornado hits a Pfizer plant in North Carolina. And this was very interesting. Like, why did just tornado come out of nowhere and hit this Pfizer plant? It literally destroyed the plant. We saw some messages coming over from some of the people that are in the military connections that were claiming that the good guys, the Patriots, have seized control of some of the HARP equipment, and they now can do tit for tat. And I think we just saw that play out today. Couple other things going on. Maybe I don't know if you guys are watching resignations. A few years ago, Q told us to watch the resignations. Well, there's been some interesting ones just this week. We had the Pakistani government resign. That's not a small thing. We had, and that comes after what we had the Danish government resign 2 weeks ago. Also, we had the resignation of the defense minister in the UK. We also had the prime minister of Singapore also resign. being caught up in what they claim was an inappropriate relationship. I think it goes way beyond that, if you know what I mean. So these things are all evidences of the war that were underway here, and that the good guys are winning. I want you guys to realize we're winning every day now. There are battles being won, and you should not be discouraged. In fact, you should be more excited than ever right now, because there's nothing they can do to stop the impending justice. It's barreling down on them like a freight train, and they don't know how to stop it. But it's exciting that we're getting to this point, that we've gotten. This was kind of a top-down thing. They had to work their way down, but now we're getting into those middle people, those lower level deep staters. By the time we get to EBS, there won't be any big names to round up. They've already been handled. Okay. So that'll be good news, because I think when the people find out, when things are revealed and they realize what kind of criminality was going on, what kind of things were happening, and especially the tie-in with the children and what was going on with that, they're going to be angry. And so how do you calm the masses down that are angry? Well, you begin tribunals and you begin justice, so that they feel that it's been taken care of. So we can expect that to come. One of the other things that's interesting is the go woke, go broke that's happening here, particularly in America. I'm watching it here closely, but this is probably happening everywhere in many countries. I know in Europe it's happening. Companies, and then we really saw this in June, companies started getting on the bandwagon with the pride parades and the pride displays and everything else, the LGBTQ stuff. And it was wildly rejected by the people. The pushback was enormous. Target put up a display in some of their stores. The people quit coming. They lost $2 billion in valuation in a week. Ben and Jerry's put out a statement on the 4th of July about the Indians and that they've been robbed, and well, suddenly people aren't buying Ben and Jerry's ice cream. They lost $2 billion in valuation in a week. And this on top of what we saw with the Budweiser Corporation, with Bud Light, and several other things. So this tells you that the people are not going with anything that is not normal, right? They're not into kinky, they're not into weird stuff, and they're certainly not into harming children. And the quiet voice of the majority is no longer quiet. Everyone's now speaking very loudly with their wallets, and we can expect probably to see a little more of that. The pendulum might swing where it goes just, maybe a little too far the other way, rather than settling in the middle, which tends to happen when things start shifting. But certainly this is a major change that's going on there. One of the things that came to my attention that I thought was interesting is bankruptcy filings. We are now seeing corporate bankruptcy filings on a numbers level that we haven't seen since the last recession, which was in 2009. The numbers are now beginning to exceed 2009. This is going to pick up speed, and we're going to see more go out. In fact, some of these woke companies may find themselves in bankruptcy when there's no more income coming in. So that's another interesting tidbit you might pay attention to. Another big thing happened last week. XRP won its lawsuit against the SEC. So what does this mean? Well, it means that XRP and cryptocurrencies are not a security. That was the big complaint. Once that was finished, XRP shot up. Oh man, it had like a 40% jump in hours. And XLM, I think, boosted as well. We're going to see there's a little bit of gyrations going on there. It might settle down a little bit, but I have a feeling that some of these, in particular like the XRP, XLM stuff, may begin to really take a lift as the bank apocalypse comes into full force. And what I mean by bank apocalypse is a couple of things. I want to cover a little bit of that today because I follow this stuff, having been in banking. Goldman Sachs announced its quarterly earnings were down 58%. Not only did they not make a profit, they were down 58%. This was massive. And a lot of that was tied into commercial real estate holdings that are just starting to take a bloodbath. Bank of America, Wells Fargo facing massive commercial banking losses. This is commercial properties, office buildings, even retail, and it's affecting all of them. So what's happened is Bank of America has now set aside $847 million to try to cover the next quarter of losses. Okay, it's pretty big, but not to be outdone, but are outdone. Wells Fargo set aside $900 million plus to try to cover their losses. And Chase was even worse. They had to put aside $1.2 billion to try to cover their losses. And they announced that in the last 12 months, $200 billion in deposits have left Chase Bank. This is huge, folks. We have the makings of a banking apocalypse unlike anything we've ever seen in our lives. So I hope you're making plans, moving assets into real things and real stuff, because you're going to want to be holding something real when the dust settles here. I don't know how bad it's going to get, but this is going to make 2008 and 9 look like child's play. Okay. When the old system comes down, it will come down completely. This is going to be the death of the Federal Reserve System. So you can imagine that it's bad. It will be, but it has to die if we're going to have a future, if we're going to have a new currency, if we're going to have something that magnifies us and launches us forward into a beautiful future. So those are things that are going on right now. One of the things to watch is when it comes to financial stuff, Germany is on the just a trigger edge of complete financial collapse. They're not saying anything about this, but they are in big trouble. Deutsche Bank, big trouble. We already saw what happened with Credit Suisse. They got swallowed up. And the Swiss government even had to step in and back everything up, to make this deal workable to take out Credit Suisse. Guys, there's a lot of toxic things going on in the banking system in Europe. And it looks like Germany and France economies are about to implode. When they do, and I think it's a certainty, it will eventually happen. Once that happens, I think you're going to see a series of dominoes that's going to, within hours, move to Canada, move to the United States, stock market losses, everything else going on. So there's going to be it's going to be rough. Okay. I don't want to sugarcoat this. This is not going to be anything like we're used to seeing. This is why we say, hey, get some water, get some food, have some metals, have a little cash, have something on the hand, because when this begins to hit, the first thing that'll happen is all credit will freeze up. Well, what does that mean? I mean, suddenly your plastic doesn't work anymore. Your debit cards, your credit cards, they're going to be done. Okay. And that's just the consumer level. On the corporate or commercial side, it means all these credit lines with these big companies suddenly freeze. Well, every truckload delivered to your local grocery store is delivered on a credit line. So you can imagine there's going to be some disruptions in that. That's why just, stock up, do what you can. I realize not everybody's in a position to be, ready for 3 months worth of supplies, but get what you can. They're going to try to make this as short-lived as possible. I think we're looking at maybe 3 weeks on the outside. Okay. Hopefully it's only a week to 2 weeks, okay, of challenges or difficulties as we move through that. Because once the old system is declared dead, now we can introduce new currency, and that will be the opportunity where people can then go to their bank, exchange their money for the new currency, and we get everything back on track. And it really won't take that long to get back on track, but we're going to have to go through the death nail regardless. There's just no way around that one. So don't want to belabor that point. I just wanted to talk about a couple other things. There has been an explosion of information coming out about medicine and how the people are beginning to look for something else. They don't want a chemical in their arm anymore. They want real solutions. I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me back it. Can you see that? This little black box. This box is called a QT wave device. I recently received this from Quantum Healing Systems, and this is some of the new technology that's coming out, where healing is frequency. So what's happening is the device scans the body. I'm going to try to hold it. I hope you can see that. So the device scans the body. You keep it on you, put it in your pocket, near your person. It needs to be within 2 feet of you, or it's got a little thing here you can put on lanyard, hang around your neck. You charge it like you would a cell phone. It charges pretty quick, like maybe an hour and a half. And it scans the body for any parts of the body that's out of sync with normal functioning. They have mapped 45,000 frequencies in the human body of various parts of the body that should be resonating on certain frequency levels. And if they're not, or something's interrupted, then this finds that, and it begins to send healing frequencies and energies to that part of the body to restore your health. I just got it. I'll check in with you next time and let you know how wonderful it is, because I've only had it a couple of days. But this is some cool new technology. They have additional units that are going to be coming forward that's designed to, that's bigger, more powerful, that you put in your house. And it will track and maintain up to 7 people in a home. And so that's going to be pretty nice when that comes out. I want to say they're $3,000 to $4,000 for a home unit. This one I got, personal one, I think I paid $400 for it. This company is working on their own med bed. The doctor that's been working on this has been doing it for decades. He had a prototype in the early 90s. Unfortunately, there were people in the government that didn't want him bringing this out. And anyways, people from the government confiscated one of these beds and got rid of it. They thought everything was gone, but he had another one. It's recently come out of hiding, if you will, and is being updated with everything he's learned since then. And the big one was called the QT Arc, or the Q Arc, excuse me. And it's basically a full med bed. So people will be able to get in there, and it scans the body and then starts moving back over to restore everything that's not in sync with your DNA. As we age, our DNA gets, for lack of a better term, corrupted, right? So things don't work quite the same way they do. You know, our skin maybe isn't as soft and youthful. We get gray hair. All these things are just issues of the DNA being slightly corrupted, and then as we develop new cells, those cells are slightly corrupted. So these devices are about getting us back to the original DNA, and then to begin building new cells, right, from the original blueprint, and you can begin to restore